Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
This week, I went to St. Louis, Missouri to cover the radioactive landfill that is, of course, threatening a state of emergency for many counties there in St. Louis, Missouri. Of course, I took this particular task personally. I spent some formative years there, and a lot of stuff has gone on in St. Louis, has a very sordid history, including a lot of secret testing on the population there. Now, I wanted to give you some background information on the chemical works company that was largely responsible for dumping all of this toxic waste from the Manhattan Project throughout St. Louis. That was Mallinckrodt Chemical Works. One of the things I wasn't able to get to in this video that we're about to show you is some of the secret testing that was going on between Mallinckrodt and their employees. They employed a company doctor. They knew that their workers were being exposed to really high levels of uranium and other radioactive materials. And they said, well, wow, now we've got this really large population of people who are getting super high doses of radiation. So maybe we should just go ahead and see what happens to these people. I was able to obtain some documents that I guess we'll call her a whistleblower, was able to obtain via FOIA request. Denise Brock was actually working on behalf of a lot of families of nuclear workers to try and help them get some aid. Because, of course, this didn't die with their grandparents who might have died working there in those nuclear factories. They have birth defects, as well as some of the areas are poisoned now. These people are having these very rare cancers. So we can doc cam on some of these secret office memorandums where they're kind of talking about, what's the potential liability among the long-term Mallinckrodt employees? Not, how can we help these employees, but hey, how's this going to affect us? And so they wanted to have this estimate of cumulative multiple exposures to radioactive material. The report shows that there are 17 employees whose lungs have had more than 1,000 RAM of exposure. And then they go on talking about how there were thousands of employees who stuff like this was happening to. They say it was recognized that pending elimination of excessive exposures, pending that, we're going to go ahead and try and stop them from being exposed. But here we have a unique opportunity to conduct clinical studies on a fairly large-size population whose radiation exposure for several years had been considerably in excess of any group for which data are available. So they go on to talk about how they're going to go ahead and observe these health effects on them as well as their family, even going so far as to do autopsies on these employees without the family's consent, all to find out these long-term effects of chronic occupational exposure to penetrating external ionizing radiation. And, there's another article here about, oh, sorry, we spilled a bunch of barium in the street on a road to the St. Louis airport. And you can just see the sense of urgency they had with dealing with this barium spill. 15 days ago, we'll give it a few more weeks before we really go ahead and take care of it. So this is Mallinckrodt, who then this is Mallinckrodt Chemical Works, who of course then morphed into Mallinckrodt Pharmaceutical Corp, who is in business today. They are the world's market leader in selling medicinal street drugs, basically. So these are legal. The DEA is helping them get it in. This is an article from 1988, how Coca-Cola obtains its coca. And they're basically saying, Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in its ingredients. Now they take that out of there and they give this cocaine to St. Louis pharmaceutical manufacturer Mallinckrodt, who is the only company in the United States licensed to purify the product for medicinal use. So Big Pharma wants to sell cocaine, perfectly fine. Ann McAdoo reporting for Infowars.com. Of course, we are here covering the state of emergency with the radioactive landfill in Westlake. And of course, no trip to St. Louis to cover that would be complete without looking a little deeper into the company that was largely responsible for dumping all of this nuclear waste secretly around St. Louis. That would be Mallinckrodt Chemical Works. Now, Mallinckrodt Chemical Works began processing uranium in 1942 for the first atomic bomb. Once they started running out of space at their facility, they started shipping these radioactive waste containers off-site throughout different parts of St. Louis. Here's an old picture. You can see these materials were stored in bulk on the ground, open to the elements, and they were unattended. And they left them right next to Coldwater Creek, which we have been interviewing a lot of people here who were actually poisoned by this nuclear radioactive material being in Coldwater Creek. Of course, it would get into the floodplain, get into people's crops. This area here is now currently dealing with thorium being found in their backyard. So this is a huge issue. These people are still having to deal with this today. Now, Mallinckrodt, they got out of the atomic weapons business, and today they're actually Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals. And check out their website. I mean, hello. I don't really need to get into the details with that. But Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals is basically a world market leader in medicinal controlled substances. That's right. They are one of the largest importers of opium, coca leaves for cocaine, as well as poppy, raw opium, and some of the things that they manufacture: codeine, hydrocodone, morphine products, opium, oxycodone. So all the things that other controlled substances. And so they are making these products that you're hearing a lot about with drug overdoses and things like that. So, going from making nuclear weapons to other ticking time bombs that are affecting our present day society. Now, check this out. So you can go to the U.S. Department of Justice, into their Office of Diversion Control, and you can see where they have gone with the Drug Enforcement Administration to be known as importers of these controlled substances. So this was just May 2015 that they filed for that, and they filed for phenylacetone, coca leaves, raw opium, and poppy straw concentrate. And so the summary is basically that the Drug Enforcement Agency grants Mallinckrodt registration as an importer of these controlled substances. And then, of course, you can take a look at the other page where they say it's a manufacturer's notice. So then they also have to go ahead and give them the thumbs up that, yes, they can use these controlled substances to create all of these controlled substances. So these are medicinal controlled. These are the ones that are given the thumbs up, even though they are made with the same drugs that we're apparently trying to stop with the drug war. So are they just working directly with the drug cartels to bring in the coca leaves and the raw opium over the border? Or is the DEA helping them ship it right in? Now think about that. We already know that our soldiers are protecting the opium fields there in Afghanistan. And since we've been there protecting them, it's actually increased about 90+%. So it doesn't put two and two. And of course, Mallinckrodt isn't the only pharmaceutical company that is importing these drugs. They're just the world market leader. Now, it's the U.S. Department of Justice that's obviously making this huge push to ban guns and take guns away from everyone. But we'll look at 2013. So in 2013, they would say about 12,000 people were killed in gun violence in the United States, 30 people a day. So that's, about 12,000 people. We'll take a look at the overdose death rates from pharmaceutical drugs in 2013. 25,000 total from prescription drugs, male and female, 25,000 in 2013. If you're looking just at opioid pain relievers, which is what Mallinckrodt specializes in, 18,000, 16,000 here. So much, much more than gun violence. You can look at the fact of abuse here. 6.2 million Americans abuse prescription type drugs, non-medicinal purposes, more than cocaine, heroin, hallucinogens, and inhalants combined. These are obviously young people. There's an increase in young adults abusing these prescription pills. And then just looking in one metro area alone, more than half of the deaths involved these prescription opiates. So this is just one metro area that they're kind of collating this data from. So as you can see, drug overdoses and pharmaceutical drugs are always popping up in these mass shootings, right? But they never want to talk about the pharmaceuticals. They never want to point out how that is always one of the key indicators in these mass shootings. It's always the guns, when clearly prescription opioids are much more dangerous, killing many more people than guns here in America. That's what we need to be talking about. So that I thought was a really interesting, a little bit of information going back with Mallinckrodt Chemical Works, who is, largely responsible for contaminating the St. Louis area while they were secretly dumping off this nuclear material, and they're continuing to contaminate the population of the United States today. Stay tuned to Infowars.com for more reports.
The knowledge of the ancients, tried and true, trusted herbs and extracts fused with the latest nutraceutical science. Introducing the all-new Ancient Defense Herbal Immunity Blend, crafted with over 14 key ancient herbs and extracts to supercharge and prepare your body for what experts admit is the most dangerous season of the year. We have rejected hundreds of other formulations in our quest to bring you what is simply the most powerful and comprehensive proprietary formula that we have ever created in the realm of herbal immunity. For the last 2 years, our team has been working with top doctors, nutritionists, and chemists to develop the ultimate nutraceutical formulation. Experience the benefits of combining over 14 ancient herbs and extracts with exciting new advances in nutraceutical science. Now is the time to secure Ancient Defense for you and your family. Visit ancientdefense.com or call 888-253-3139. That's ancientdefense.com.